Hello and welcome to Second Operator, the podcast dedicated to portable synthesizers and DAWless music. I am your humble host, Shines. This is episode 9. We are almost at the 10 episode mark here. Really happy with how the community is growing. It's nice to have so many repeat listeners coming back for our newest conversations. And for the DAWless musicians out there, I'm going to get to you. And I can't wait to eventually talk to every single one of you. Really excited about our guest today. We've got the legendary James Burns, aka Robinson's Village, on Instagram. I followed his stuff for years. I mean, absolutely incredible sound designer and musician. He seems to have an understanding of the OP1 that no one else in this dimension has come close to. I've actually been a follower and listener to his stuff since really the beginning of my own journey into DAWless. And we'll get to that in just a second. Let's start with a little bit of news for the week here. Now, there's not been a whole lot of news lately on new synthesizers or whatnot, but just wanted to make a quick little shout out here. So we all know Apple just unveiled their new VR, AR hybrid headset, which is really cool and all, and at this point in time has really nothing to do with DAWless music. But recently, they have actually released a version of their flagship audio workstation app, Logic, onto iPad. So it's basically a full DAW, a digital audio workstation for your tablet, untethered to any laptop or desktop computer or whatnot. I mean, it's got built-in touch instruments, got sequencing capabilities. I mean, that's all great. But what I've really been curious about is its ability to work with MIDI. And, well, after pouring through the user guide, because, actually, I don't have an iPad that can run it, I found that it actually does sport a whole slew of MIDI capabilities, including Bluetooth, for all you OP1 field users out there. It's got USB MIDI as well, and even something called Network MIDI, which will let you use any MIDI instrument hooked up to a Mac on your Wi-Fi network, which is kind of crazy. How well all this works in real time, we have yet to really see, but the implications of using Logic Pro for iPad as a MIDI looper / sequencer for performances with, actual digital or, desktop synthesizers is just pretty astounding. Obviously, this entire show here, Second Operator, is about getting away from computers to make music. But I mean, with software this powerful on a mobile device, what is a DAW anymore anyway? I mean, could this be considered DAWless or hybrid or maybe an abomination? I don't know, but let me know in the comments or get in touch with me via Instagram. I'd love to hear everyone's thoughts on this. And really, that's all the news we have for today. I'm going to just push things right along to our interview. I want to just go ahead and make give a really warm welcome to our guest. James Burns comes to us live from London. Desktop synthesizer musician, OP1 sound design monster, and modular artist, James has been electrifying the Instagram synth community for years now. Really excited to get into his musical process. James, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I mean, let's just kind of get right into it here. Do you want to maybe give us a little bit of a background on your musical life, starting with your early life? How'd you get into music?
Yeah, sure. So when I was younger, I want to say around maybe 7 years old. Yeah. Schools in the UK can quite frequently offer instrument lessons. So I started off playing the cornet, which is like a little squished up trumpet for people that maybe don't know. Played in a lot of orchestras, stuff like that. Then got really big into my into guitar. And then kind of used to make Rocksmith videos, which is a little game like Guitar Hero, sending those out onto YouTube, and then played in a couple of bands. But then the bands I was playing in, I always got known for having just a stupidly oversized pedal board with 20 pedals.
Nice.
And then I eventually realized I was just trying to make my guitar sound like a synth, so I may as well try and delve into synths a little bit. And and then I kind of got sucked into it all, and then now my room is overtaken by synths and I have to crawl into them to get into my bed.
That's awesome. I had no idea that cornet was your first instrument. I mean, that's a brass instrument. Do you still play it?
No, I don't own one. I have been tempted to buy one recently just to kind of get back into it, but yeah. I've got some friends that have played, and I've tried to play trumpet. I can still remember most of it, but it's all about having the right muscle in your mouth and stuff like that. And I've lost that now. I can't can't get that back, but maybe.
Sorry to hit you with a technical question, but what key does the cornet play in? Isn't it something kind of weird?
I can't remember.
I feel like it's like B flat or something.
I was gonna say, I think it's
B-flat. It's one of those instruments that's right. You don't really see those in a lot of bands or big bands or jazz or whatnot, just because it's I know with trumpets you can play in C. I think there's like a, you know, or A, or some key that's easier for other instruments, I guess, to play with. But cornet, I've always kind of known it's like, all right, what,
Yeah,
you
B
know,
flat sounds about right. I remember it being a little bit weird.
Oh,
But
that's
maybe
really
that's
cool.
just because I couldn't play
Yeah,
very well.
no, I mean that's. Oh man, we'll start to completely derail this here, but so how did you
No, that's all
get
good.
from? So you started with guitars. Well, sorry, you taught
Yeah.
yourself guitars, and you realized that you were doing stuff to get to guitars that synthesizers could do. You were playing with the sounds, the intonations, that sort of thing. So when you started getting into synthesizers, was DAWless a thing then, or did that come later?
So yeah, I used to mess around with like Logic because that
Nice.
was it. I was playing guitar. I was kind of just writing little songs in my room when I was like 16 onwards, and then I went to my university while still mainly focused on the guitar, and they had like a little modular setup, but it terrified me, so I stayed away from that. And I would always just kind of stay in Logic for ages, and then it was only when I started to like come towards like halfway towards the end of my uni, I was like, I got on the little Korg Volca things,
Oh,
and then that
nice.
was kind of my route into the kind of DAWless side of stuff. But even then, for the longest, it was a bit of like a hot and cold relationship. I'd use it nonstop for a month, and then I'd hate it, and then I'd go revisit it a few months later, then I'd hate it again,
Wow.
and then yeah, I mean, eventually I kind of got over that, and now I'm entirely normally DAWless. But
That's
yeah.
awesome. Do you still have your Korg Volca?
Nah, I sold them.
Oh,
I
okay.
sold them for the I'm criminal for selling stuff. So like I had them, I sold them for the Behringer TD3 303 clone.
Oh,
sold
nice.
that for a module for my modular, sold that for something else. Yeah, that got sold like 5 times ago.
Oh my, you know, it's funny, like you're one of the only people that I know who's actually succeeded in selling their gear. A lot of us just kind of like say, yeah, I'm gonna put up on eBay, like we'll just sell it, and then it just kind of sits there. I mean, I'm notorious, you know. Ask my wife, like she. There's a lot of stuff here that I'm like, that's meant to be sold, but doesn't quite ever make it out the door. You know, like maybe I've sold a camera or two, but synthesizer stuff, it's like I want to sell it, but then I'm like, I just want to hear it play one more time, and then it just kind of sits on myself forever.
Times. Yeah, it's easy to do it, but I think because my room is so bloody small and because I'm always like, moving around and stuff like that.
Yeah, you
like,
mentioned like you have to crawl to get to your bed. So you're in your bedroom right now. That's your studio.
Yeah, so this
Incredible.
is like this bit's all Sims, and then like literally to the right of me behind my poly brute is my my bed, which is just it's not fun.
That's
but
awesome.
It's gets the job done.
I mean, hey, but it's kind of
cheap.
inspiring, you know, when I was back in university and back in, you know, like when I first got out into the real world, that was really how I lived too. I was like constantly rearranging my room, constantly trying to find the best way to access all my instruments in an inspiring kind of manner at all times, you know, like have everything hooked up and all that. But I do miss those days. Like right now with a baby, I had to kind of like give up, you know, part of my space in my house.
Course,
but I have like a little shelf that I keep a lot of my DAWless, you know, little desktop synths on, and that's kind of still my little space that I can you know, go and jam out whenever I want and whatnot. So yeah, that's cool.
It's important to have your area.
Absolutely, but it's just fun that you have all this stuff out, you know, and available to you at all time. So you know, you mentioned like the Polybrute and all these synthesizers that you use, but I've noticed in a lot of your videos, the OP1 will sort of take the center stage. Can you tell us a little bit about how your journey took you to OP1?
Yeah, so like as I said, so I started with the Volcas, and then I kind of got into modular from there, started building my modular stuff, and then always you were seeing the OP1 in everywhere, like it was always in somebody's video when you're going through like Instagram or something like that, and I always kept my eye on it, but it was always a little bit out of budget for me because I was a broke uni student, and then I moved to London. I was sleeping on my sister's sofa whilst trying to find a house / being a little bit poor. Wow. And I saw an OP1 pop up on, I think it was eBay or Reverb for like £400.
Oh my God.
And I was a bit like, I've got to do it because it's like, this is the only chance, or like now or never kind of thing. So I literally moved off my sister's sofa into a house and got an OP1 on the same day, which is probably a pretty good day. I literally had nothing else in my room. I hadn't moved my stuff in at all, so I was just there on a mattress with an OP1.
Wow.
Which is fun. It was a fun time.
That's pretty cool. Like I can imagine that's a very minimal like, oh, like this is like minimalism to the extreme here, but
Yeah, it's
wow.
like those memes where people have like a PS4 and a deck chair, and that's all
And
they
that's
have in their room. It's
that's
kind of like
crazy.
that.
So you've been hearing about OP1, you've been seeing it on Instagram, you got one. What were some of the first things you decided that you wanted to do with it?
Well, because like I didn't have my laptop with me at that time and stuff like that. I messed around with the synth stuff, and I was like, it's cool. But the thing that always caught my eye on it was the sampler.
Mm.
Always like blew my mind. So first thing I was doing, I was running around recording everything I could get like my hands on, but like stuff like I was like flicking, like doing like making glasses resonate, flicking windows, just anything for like weird percussion stuff, and seeing how it sounded pitched down and pitched up, and then like cutting it up really, really fine to do some granular stuff. And yeah, that was straight away the first thing that sucked me in. And then I went into the synthesis side of stuff, and that was cool, running that through like effects pedals, but it was always the sampler that has always kept me going back to the OP1, to be honest.
Wow. So when you say cutting stuff up to make granular sounds, you're taking a sample of something and then just making it a very small, repeating sample? Is that what you do?
Yeah, and then so making it, cutting it really, really fine. So like the total length of the sample is probably like I don't know, like half a second long, if that, a quarter of a second, just a couple of milliseconds, and then messing with like the envelope filter on there, so you can kind of see how it fades in and out, and then and then combining that with the pitch stuff, it creates weird textures but weird rhythms as well as you pitch it down and like pitch it up. It's always just been the kind of part of it that I found that I've just loved the most of the OP1.
My God. Well, I know what I'm doing with my OP1 after this interview. I mean, I gotta try that. There's so many sounds that I have stored in the machine, but I've never actually thought, what if I just take a tiny snippet of that sound? What are the things that I can create? What are the textures that I can get out of that? And I don't think I've even like touched the whole pitching up, pitching down of of actual analog noises that I've recorded in the real world. So, dude, that is extremely valuable information for us here. I mean, that's something that anyone out there with a sampler can try out. Try some granular texture making with your with whatever sampler it is. So when you were doing these, because I've noticed with a lot of your Instagram videos do feature your OP1 and sort of your method of sampling things and kind of downshifting. But I've always noticed a lot of effects. So you'll have like some distortions, some reverbs. Are those kind of on board OP1, or are you kind of like generating those sounds outside and bringing them in? How does that whole process kind of happen?
It's a combination of the two. So I do try and mention it in the videos as much as possible, but most of the time I do forget. But sometimes you can like I can't remember where it is on the OP1, but there's like that slight like overdrive section, I think, on the mixer or something at the end.
Oh, like the gain?
That's quite a fun one.
Limiter. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and then as well, like resampling stuff internally within it a lot of times and really cranking it till it gets distorted.
Cool.
But same as well with like then using like Ableton just to kind of push it a little bit. And I was bringing the DAW in, but there's kind of like jumping back and forth between the two.
That's super
and then
smart.
Guitar pedals as well, which is always a fun time.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, the guitar pedals for things like distortion, for probably like reverbs and stuff like that. I've noticed you used some Valhalla reverb at some point as well.
Yeah, that's always been a big fan of that.
Excellent DSP. Wow, that's cool. I mean, that's and we'll give one of your tracks a listen here in just a second, just to kind of like showcase some of the sounds that you're using. I mean, it's really it's really, really awesome, like that you can get the sound from such a small synthesizer, through the manipulation of just some tiny little sound that you have. For sure. That's really cool. And actually, just kind of segueing into some of your Instagram stuff. So, how did you get started on Instagram, creating music content on there? And I guess, how long have you been on Instagram?
I mean, I've had that Instagram account since I was like 13, something like that.
Oh, wow.
It used to just be my own personal one, and then I kind of posted a couple of synth videos.
Cool.
I think I posted a couple of guitar stuff back in the day, and then it was around the pandemic kind of time, so 2020. I just I was living in the States at the time, and I'd just been kicked out, and I was like kind of back at my parents' place, had a couple of synths, and I was like, right, I've got however much time before university starts back up again. I can't get a job, so I'm just gonna have to be broke and mess around with my synths, kind of leech off my parents a little bit. So I kind of was like, right, I'm gonna do something productive in that time and just go really big on the Instagram kind of grind. And then I was just messing with synths, doing little bits and bobs there. And then so around 2020 was when I properly kind of got into it. But yeah, just weird short clips. I'd chuck it up there. A couple of friends would like it, and then I kind of got a bit more into it.
Yeah.
And then like there's a nice thing about the whole Instagram synth community that everybody's always super nice, always looking for new people. And then eventually the OP1 videos kind of picked up a lot when I eventually got that, and that kind of really helped with a lot of growth.
Blew up. I mean, your Instagram is extremely popular, I would say. That's really cool.
It was stupid how quickly it kind of did it. It was just like I literally got the OP1, and then I think I went up by like in the space of 3 months from like I was stuck on 1,300 followers to like over 10,000 in like 2 months, and I was like, I've been stuck on this for bloody ages, and now it's doing this. I was like, typical.
That's crazy. But, well, I mean, but you do stuff with the OP1 that I think, other users are just craving to know. So I'm not surprised at all that, your account, where you're sharing some of your process and some of your jams, I'm not surprised at all that it grew. That's awesome content, I will say. How did the name Robinson's Village kind of come around?
So I think it was when I used to release Robinson's Village. Used to be like a kind of garage rock, kind of like psychedelic rock kind of name, and I was like, cool. I just finished an old project that I started when I was like 2016, when I was like 16 years old, called Grain, and then I was like, right, I need a new name. And then there's like a bottle of squash in the UK, which is like a cordial, like a kind of syrup that I guess that you have with water that's like kind of fruit flavored, that all kids would have. I was just like looking for new names. I was like, and that the brand for that is called Robinson's. So I was like, right, Robinson. And then I was like, Village. And I was like, just about to upload this song. And I was like, well, I don't have any time to change it, so I'm gonna just do that.
Cool.
And then it kind of stuck around. People liked it. And I was like, okay. I mean, I don't hate it, which is, a couple of years down the line, I was like, that's a good sign. So
that is a good sign.
Yeah, just kind of went from there.
Interesting. And, I was just really
and then
curious
it's kind of
to know.
morphed.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Oh, that's super cool. So in your Robinson's Village Instagram account, obviously you're seeing a lot of OP1 videos and stuff. I've also noticed that you actually have a real 4-track tape recorder.
Yeah.
And so I was just wondering what your experiences were with that. Did you use that before you had OP1, or did it come afterwards? And how would you sort of compare the two in use?
So I think I only got that about a year ago, actually. So I've had the OP1 now for about like 2 years.
Okay.
But yeah, the 4-track, I got that about a year ago. And it's great. I mean, it's nice to sometimes as well, like for like other bits of gear that I have, running that into that and kind of treating it like the workflow that you would have within the OP1 with the 4 tracks, but just with all the gear that you have around. And then as well, like tape is just like fun. You can break it, you can ruin it, like you can really overdrive it, you can slow it down. It has so many cool artifacts and just adds a real nice warmth and hiss, which it's very pretentious, but it's a fun time.
I mean, it's an analog sort of kind of a warmth or drive that a lot of us are kind of are looking for, right? So when you're actually using a 4-track, are you kind of like recording one line, going back to record another one, or are you recording to all 4 tracks at once? How does that process work?
Normally, it would be recording to all 4 tracks at once. Like I'd have, say, the OP1 going into one channel, polybrute into another, modular into another, and then like some drums. And I'll just kind of get a jam going, sequencing off each other. But sometimes as well, I do like to overlap it, especially when doing like tape loops and stuff like that. Like it's nice to build on it, see how it kind of goes. And it's a nice different kind of workflow where like you don't have I never have a metronome on or anything like that. So it's just kind of just seeing where everything kind of goes, doing it by ear. So it's a little bit like always a little bit off and a little bit janky.
Yeah,
but
that's more organic that way, right? I mean, that's another sound that I think a lot of us are trying to get into is, sequencers are really awesome. I mean, I think they're extremely useful things to, have synthesizers play back what you put into them. But also that organic, like my synth stab was just a little ahead or a little bit behind the beat. I think that's becoming a lot more, it's catching on, I think.
Yeah, I think there's something about that as well. Like, I'm a big fan of, like, especially as well, like destructive editing and stuff like that.
Oh, definitely.
Like,
I mean, with your
like
distortion
if you make a mistake,
and your over, sampling and stuff that you're doing, I mean, I can definitely tell.
But like cutting up tape and like if you have a mistake,
cool,
or like if you push something so far, it's committed and you can't go back and save it. And I guess it's the same thing on the OP1. Like, there's only so much time that you have on there, and you can't go back an awful lot. There's no undo. So if you mess up but you have a good take, you just have to live with it. And I think that creates so many happy mistakes. Or like if you have a sound that you're not super happy with, a week later you can't go back and tweak it necessarily because that's what you sampled. And and then you get the carving away at that to try and undo your mess ups, and then as a result you get more fun mistakes from that. So it's a nice workflow.
I like that.
Yeah, I like that about tape on the OP1.
That is a very good, I think, philosophy to have with music. I mean, you're not always going to get the sound that you were going for, what you want, but at the end of the day, it is going to be something unique.
Yeah, definitely.
I think that might be a pretty good segue into playing your first track. This is, you mentioned Polybrute and OP1 combo. So this is something that I believe you made a step sequence on OP1, but you're playing Polybrute live. I think this is one of your more recent OP1 Polybrute combos that you've done. So let's give it a listen, and then we'll just hear a little bit about your experiences with Polybrute, and we'll kind of move things towards modular as well. I'm kind of interested in getting to know how you started with all of that, that whole fun world. So let's give this track a listen. Not sure if it has a name or whatnot, but let's just hear it thump right here on Second Operator. We'll come right back. Wow. Just wow. I mean, that was, first of all, the beats were thumping. Everything was really, really cool. You created this extremely interesting atmosphere. Those big chords and stuff coming from Polybrute, I think, are just really, really fun. But there was that melody line that just kind of cuts through on OP1. I think that was like the digital synth, or I always get the cluster and digital engines mixed up.
Me too, don't worry. I think it might have been the cluster.
Okay.
I think maybe I
but
can't
just
remember,
like it was
but
wobbly. It was really, really cool. So I'm not sure if you remember exactly what went into creating this particular jam, but do you remember creating this on Polybrute and OP1?
Vaguely. I mean, I think it all started with just I like, 'cause that's the thing, especially with the Instagram videos, I'll be like, right, I'm gonna just pick two instruments, cram them together, and that'll be today's post or whatnot. But so that, I think that did start with the drums on the OP1.
Oh, cool.
Or like the little lead as well. And then the Polybrute, I was kind of like, right, I know I can kind of wing it, so I kind of cycled through what the presets that I've made, a couple of filter tweaks, and I was like, keep the Polybrute somewhat simple, let the complexity lie within the OP1 with a nice pre-recorded track so I don't mess it up too much. And then a couple of takes and we had it down, and a good time.
So cool. How has your experience with the Polybrute been? I mean, this is one of the, I think one of the largest desktop, well, it's not really a desktop, but it is one of the largest synthesizers I've ever seen. But how has that been?
It's been insane. It's
behind you,
you could just do so much with it.
Cool.
I've made a lot of presets for it, and every single one, it's amazing how broad you can get a sound, and how it can create something that's super soft and super chill, and then you can program within it just something that just sounds absolutely insane, and there's like a robot dying. It's absolutely nuts.
I think that's the sound we all are striving for, the robot dying.
Oh, always, always. Gotta be done.
That's awesome.
But yeah, no, I love it. It's probably my favorite polysynth. Yeah,
wow.
I can't get enough of it.
Is it analog, like in its circuitry, or is it digital oscillators?
I'm pretty sure it's analog, but I think it's a combo of the two as well.
Wow.
But yeah, like the thing that shines most to me is it has all the internal like effects as
cool.
well, which is just like, once again, to kind of be outside of a DAW,
right,
and just do everything in that and not have to like load up Ableton and stack up 10 different effects to get a weird sound. You could just do it within the Polybrute, have them all automating off some weird thing, and you can just get lost in it for hours.
That's oh, so you can modulate the effects based on the stuff in your sequence and stuff. That
you can
is
modulate
awesome.
everything in it. God. It's insane.
Goodness. So that's it's almost like a semi-modular synthesizer where you can kind of tweak effects and kind of change things as it goes. That's really cool. Exactly. I've always noticed, because doesn't it have the little grid in the middle where you can kind of program in notes and stuff?
Yeah. Wow. And that's where like you like select that's where like you can use it as a sequencer, then you press another button, and that's where you have like, you can assign however many different LFOs or variable things to tweak whatever weird little thing you want to tweak, and then have them things tweak another thing. It's crazy. It's stupid how much you can do with it.
Yeah, I mean, having never seen one in person, just in videos and stuff, I can't really comprehend the enormity of its size, but I can definitely tell just from behind you. It looks like a beast, that thing. So
it's scary.
Does it have a lot of connection to, say, like your modular or your other gear? Like besides synchronizing and all that kind of stuff, does it have any other?
I mean, I don't even synchronize it. For me, it's just like, because I mean, you can, but I've just, every time that whole thing's kind of come up, and especially like syncing stuff over MIDI, I always say I'm going to do it, and then it comes to setting it up and I just can't be bothered a little bit. So I quite like having
I know exactly that feeling. Yeah, where you're just like,
it just becomes so much effort, but it's not. I love how rusty it is pressing play on like 5 different things at once and getting the timing ever so slightly off, and then doing it again. Yeah, but I think like that just creates, like, once again, as said earlier, like a lot of fun, happy accidents.
Yes.
And that's that's with the Polybrute. I probably should get around to hooking it up with my modular. But yeah, for the time being, I'm happy with how it is. But maybe one day.
That's pretty
Maybe
cool.
one day I will.
Well, so speaking of modular, so you mentioned that, you're back at your parents' place and you had some money saved up from, so you're supposed to be living in New York, but the time was cut short due to COVID and all that, and you kind of ended up using that on your first sort of modular setup. So can you tell us a bit about how you got, or just really how you started figuring out your modular setup and how you kind of wanted that to evolve?
Yeah, so before all of this, I did have the I remember at one point I bought the Behringer Model D, which was like, I had that kind of there already, but I was always a little bit, I don't know, I kept on seeing it. I was like, I love playing with it, but it confuses me, especially once again the syncing over MIDI. And then I was at my parents' place and I was like, right, I'm gonna get myself, I've got a little bit of money saved back. I was like, right, I'm gonna spend this on and I was doing some freelance stuff online as well. I was like, I'm gonna spend this on just getting a modular case to start with.
That's such
so I got, luckily,
an
at the same time,
I think, aspect of modular that none of us really think of. All of us are like, I'm gonna get the mutable, and you got to start with your case.
Yeah. You got to get the case, because the case defines on how much money you're gonna absolutely blow on this stupid thing.
Yes.
And I got one that was way too big.
Oh no.
And as a result, it did lead to a bit of a bad spending habit, which I sold it for a smaller case, and I'm much happy with.
Okay, cool.
With the IntelliGel, it's just a much nicer size.
Nice. But, that's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah, but I had the Model D. I had nothing to control it. But I put it into my rack, and then I had the maths, and that was it. And I just spent the whole time just making laser noises. I couldn't control a single thing, so it'd just be an LFO going up, and then just trying to figure it out, and like just really restrict myself to those 2 modules. So I think I just made a bunch of like weird one-shots for tracks that I was working on, just weird Star Wars sounding things.
Yeah, laser beams.
And then And then eventually I was like, right, what do I need next? So I went from there. I got the clouds because I was like, a reverb would be cool.
Nice.
Then I eventually got a controller, got the key step.
Okay,
and then
cool.
from there, just slowly built it up, but trying to not be suckered into how easy it is to like just get carried away with.
Oh my God.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, right, I'm gonna be slow with it and just slowly build it up. I mean, I didn't have much money anyway, which is stupid getting into modular when you're broke. But luckily, it was the right time when Behringer was doing all those kind of cheaper kind of little bits and bobs.
Right.
And I was like, okay, that's a nice way for me to ease in, but not be too committed to it. And then I can get them and sell them and then get some cool stuff that I do want, like as time goes on.
Oh, that's super smart. Yeah. I mean, I'm definitely someone whose like feet are still at the edge of the water. I have not dived in yet, but I think, you know, it really does come to just finding a case and then being prepared to buy and sell modulars. I think that's really an important thing to keep in mind is that, you know, you'll have as much fun as you can with a combination of 2-3 modules, but eventually it might be time to, you know, upgrade or change out some of the modules that you use.
Definitely. And there's a lot of modules as well where people like really say this is like the must-have module. You need to have this, and you blow so much money on it, like this is going to change my life, and then it doesn't work, it doesn't fit with your workflow, and it's like, that's fine. Like, you don't, like, just because it's a popular module doesn't mean that you necessarily have to you don't have to necessarily like it. Like it might not work with how you want your setup and stuff like that. So it's a nice way to ride it.
Absolutely. So you have both modular and self-contained desktop synthesizers. Is there a workflow that you prefer? Do you prefer modular sometimes over the self-contained stuff, or vice versa?
Yeah, so I think it depends on what I'm trying to do. If it's like, especially with like with an Instagram post, like I know a module will be a cool, quick like idea generator, and same as well for my own personal music. I know the modular is kind of like I can get more creative with it, but then that's if I'm just kind of like hunting down just any source of inspiration. Whereas if I've got something in my head, it's way easier to just pick up the Polybrute or the OP1 and just kind of go from there. But yeah, like modulars for like idea generation, then everything else is just for like, I know what I want to do. I want something that's kind of reliable.
Oh, interesting. It's like almost like a painter's palette versus a artist's sketchbook or something. You know, with a sketchbook, you know exactly what you want to draw, or, you know, maybe you're just fiddling around with some ideas, but it's down. But with a painter's palette, you're basically just choosing colors that you want to paint with. So that's a cool way to use it. I never thought about the way I think is mostly just, you know, have a track made. That's it. It's done. I don't really think in terms, or I've never really thought in terms of what is the sound that I'm going for? What is a soundscape that I'm trying to, you know, luck into, or maybe accident myself into, or whatnot, right? So I think that's gonna give me, and hopefully a lot of the listeners out there, just stuff to maybe strive for. You know, if you're stuck, maybe just try and whittle it down, or just simplify it down to just one sound to maybe begin with, maybe just one little grain of a sound to then, you know, start with, that might inspire an entire track to come eventually. But I think just the manipulation of sound to create, you know, something to eventually become something else, I think that's super important as well.
Yeah, for sure. Wow. Like, I think it's an important way to kind of flow through it all.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's easy to overthink everything. So it's nice to just kind of vibe it out a little bit, and especially for, like I said, for like Instagram posts and stuff like that. Like, I remember at one point I was doing a post every day, looking at potentially doing 2 posts a day, which was stupid. Lord. Wow. And I was like, I need lots of ideas.
Yes.
And so I was like, like trying to kind of get on that. And I know the modular saved me so many times with that, because it was just like, you don't really have to overthink it. You can just put something together. It might sound awful when you hear it the next day, but that's fine, because the post's already been done and posted.
Well, here's what we'll do. Let's play another one of your tracks. This is the one with your Behringer RD9. along with your OP1, and this is the one with your Valhalla reverb on it as well. So we'll play that, and when we come back, let's talk a little bit about, we'll kind of conclude things on advice to newcomers to the synthesizer world, to the Instagram world, and other project shout-outs and things like that that you have. So let's give this one a listen here. This is another thumper, so, ready your ears, everyone. This is another one that just, I think, is just so, so cool. Let's hear it now, right here now on Second Operator. Just a second. All right, may I just say, oh my God, that was pretty crazy. You had some, like you said, a ton of side chaining going on, just a really thumping beat here. And on OP1, you were using the cow, the CWO effect here to basically just create a drop before you bring this beat back in on the RD9. So I think that's an absolutely incredible track that you have going on, but all of it seems to be, like you were saying in the beginning, like overdriven, very distorted, and just kind of crushed to the point of just sounding really distinct and really kind of hot, I would say. Like the beat is just like really driven, and I think that's really that's super cool. So yeah,
I like a bit of distortion.
I can tell. Yeah, I mean, like a lot of your synth sounds are very, very heavily distorted like that. They're huge, but this one in particular, I feel like I was inside the sun.
Yeah, I think there's like the two. I like to use like distortion in two ways, where it's like that, where it's like really in your face,
nice,
and then there's a fun way for like using it for like, once again, like I use it on a lot of my Instagram posts, but in a lot of my own music, where it's like distortion that ends up kind of mellowing everything out in an ambient way as well. Cool. Like where you distort it so much so that it loses the tonality and becomes just like quite like a wash of noise.
Wow.
And it's it's cool, the scale and how like different you can get distortion, and like just by slamming stuff, and it's fun. Who doesn't like a bit of distortion?
I mean, hey, I think it's super sick. Wow. Well, thank you again for like sharing your music with us here on the show. So kind of in conclusion, I just wanted to ask you, for advice to newcomers to the synthesizer world.
I mean, it's a nice way to I've had like a lot of people message me recently asking like, what are some good go-to like starter bits, and I would say you can't go wrong with the cheapest synth that you can find, whether it is a Korg Volca or like a cheap Casio, and like a guitar pedal or two. Like I think that's like you can just go so far with it with like a multi-effects thing, and don't strive for anything like massive or insane. Just enjoy where you're at, and then just prepare yourself and just enjoy before you get sucked into the whole like gas stuff.
Absolutely.
And as well, like as I said earlier, like with music production stuff, enjoy the mistakes, enjoy being bad at it, and enjoy just like kind of sucking at it all. And you got to keep on just striving to finding out like more. Like it's part of the fun of it. Enjoy the process and stuff.
I love it. I will gladly enjoy being bad at it after this interview.
Me too.
I mean, hey, it's all part of the practice. It's all part of learning your instruments and becoming a better artist. Well, that's cool. Well, how about some advice to newcomers to the Instagram synth world?
I mean, it's a nice community. Keep an eye out to what other people are doing, what people are doing well in terms of like an algorithm, because at the end of the day, like it's all about obviously posting your content out there, and just having a nice portfolio of stuff like that, and engaging with other people. But it's fun as well to see your stuff doing well. So it's just like, just keep on but just enjoy the process. Look out for an algorithm. Don't burn yourself out.
Okay.
like, which is a very key thing. I think we've all
Right.
been there.
Don't try to do
bit.
2 posts per day. I think it's a little
It's stupid.
much. Yeah,
it's stupid. Like, I do like 3 a week, and now that's just like perfect.
That's a good number.
But yeah, just enjoy it. Like, Instagram's brutal, and also as well, stuff like Instagram, TikTok, there's always going to move on to the next thing. So don't get too hung up if you're not doing as well as you want to be.
Right. If you're not getting as
just
many likes
enjoy
or whatnot.
Posting.
Cool.
Yeah,
I think that's really good
just
advice.
write it all out.
Yeah, just use it as a portfolio. You know, maybe stuff to remember, times in your life that you were, you know, where you were at when you wrote a particular piece. So no, that's pretty solid advice for anyone, you know, new to the Instagram synth world. So before we conclude, do you have any current projects that you're working on? Anything you want to shout out?
So I had a song come out about 2 weeks ago, called Birds, Birds, Birds.
This has been heavily featured on your Instagram.
I think it's 3.
Yep, 3 birds.
Oh, I've been shoving it down everybody's throat. Bless them. My TikTok's way worse. I've been like posting about it 3 times a day, just churning just stuff out there. I feel but yeah, no, that's been doing well. So that's been fun. Got another song coming out in probably July time. I think I've got it queued up. Nice. I can't quite remember. Bit more ambient stuff. But aside from that, I'm just trying to do a little bit of that. Trying to
that's awesome.
Broaden out a little bit, kind of still enjoy the Instagram stuff, but kind of stretch out a little bit further.
Wow.
And but still just enjoying messing with synths.
That's super cool. Yeah, anything that you make that's ambient, I can tell is going to have that sort of that distorted warmth to it.
Yeah, I gotta have a little bit.
Oh man, and if you have a Dying Robots track, I'd love to hear that as well. I think that's going to be really cool.
Definitely.
I've noticed that you actually play some shows live as well. Do you have any upcoming events or anything like that you're going to do?
No, not anything set to come up. I mean, I'm very keen to play some, but it's been the kind of thing where it's like I've been kind of rebuilding my set. Nice. To kind of move away from the previous stuff. So before I just used to use OP1, the SP404 live. Now I've tried to bring my modular into it and do it more SP404 and OP1, but heavily feature the modular just so I can kind of have a bit more fun with it live and add a bit of risk and a little bit of messing up. So
that's plus the performative aspect of modular as well. You're going to just be like yanking cables out here and there. And I don't know.
A little bit of chaos.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing your little bit of chaos with us here on Second Operator. It's been an absolute pleasure talking with you and just learning about your process. And I think you've honestly given our listeners the most, solid do this on your synthesizer type advice that I've heard so far. So honestly, thank you for bringing, that value to all the listeners out there. So really, really thank you. And it was really just nice talking to you, for the first time ever. And, meeting a fellow OP1 enthusiast, meeting another synthesist, really, really awesome stuff. And I cannot wait to see and hear your upcoming projects and stuff. And maybe hopefully see you live at some point in time. I mean, who knows what your modular rig will look like then? Who knows what your performance will be? But whatever the case, I'll look forward to it.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's been a lot of fun.
Oh man, absolutely. All right, James. Well, you have a great rest of your night. I know you just got out of work and stuff, and you might be kind of tired, but
I'm gonna make some food.
Absolutely, man. Well, huge pleasure having you on. We'll catch you at some other time on Instagram. Cheers.
Cool. Take care.
And you can follow James at @Robinson's Village on Instagram. He's also on YouTube, and he has a link tree in his Instagram bio, so definitely check that out. You've been listening to Second Operator. Thank you so much for joining us here on the live stream, if you have, and being part of this awesome community. Next week, we're going to be interviewing the DC-based synth artist Alex Roldan. Cannot wait to get into his music and process. Please keep an eye on my Instagram page for more details on that. If you want to get in touch with me with any news or community shoutouts, you can connect with me on Instagram at @second.operator, as well as on Twitter at @second_operator. You can find us right here on YouTube at youtube.com/@secondoperator, and eventually on every podcast platform in the known universe, and hopefully other dimensions too. If you'd like to support our show, we are on Patreon at patreon.com/secondoperator. The lowest tier is $1 a month, which will still get you a cool sticker for participating in supporting this show. And for all the listeners out there, thank you so much for tuning in. We'll catch you next time.